And we're live on the Bright Business Talk Show. Welcome to today's episode of Purpose-Driven Conversation about Business and Life. Today's episode is sponsored by the Bright Business Project. And if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur and you're craving authentic human-to-human connections in a supportive and collaborative environment, this might be just the place for you. The Bright Business Project is a unique way of blending human creativity, authenticity, and compassion with an innovative possibilities of AI. And together, we're building a hybrid purpose-driven workspace that empowers entrepreneurs to thrive. Welcome to today's show, and I'm super happy that we've got an amazing young man who's the founder and co-founder. I mean, he's a busy guy. His name is Saad Durrani, and let me bring Saad on. Hope I'm saying your name right.
No, that's perfect. 10 out of 10.
Okay, great.
Thanks for inviting me.
Today's conversation, I mean, this is going to be fun because Saad he's just like this high-tech guy, and I've dabbled in high-tech a little bit over the years, and so I'm really curious to see what he's doing and how he's got it going on. So Saad, how are you doing today? Welcome to the show.
Well, I'm great. Even better now that we're finally live. I've got my cup of coffee with me, so excited.
All right, sweet. Yeah, we're going to have some fun here. So tell me a little bit about your background. You've got this tremendous background of, you've lived all over the place. Looks like I was looking at your LinkedIn profile. You've been in Australia, you've been in Islamabad, you've been in the US. It's like, where haven't you been, man?
Hey, Antarctica, and I haven't traveled to any parts of Africa at this point, so hopefully this year is the one that I change that. No, but as you rightly touched upon, I was born in Pakistan. Early years of my life, I lived in the U.S. in Iowa. My father was a Fulbright scholar, and he was doing his master's at Iowa State, so just ended up sort of tagging along with him for a little bit. Then went back to Pakistan, spent my early education years over there. Did my undergrad, got a degree in finance and maths and stats, and realized that, that life wasn't really for me for a little bit. Then wanted to sort of move into tech. And I got, into one of the best programs in the world, which is at the University of Melbourne in Australia. So moved there, started working there, started my data science career from scratch over there. And and then spent about 8-ish years in Australia. Didn't pick up the accent, as you probably know.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, you got some barbecue experience, I hope.
Yeah. We love doing our shrimps on the barbie. Yeah.
I got a little bit.
It comes out when you want to eat your burgers with your water. So.
All right, I love it.
There's a little bit of that still in there, and and then just moved to the lovely U.S. the lovely California about 2-ish years ago, and was in the Bay for a bit, and now in sunny San Diego. So
where in the Bay Area were you? Where'd you
so I was in. That's when I was working for Uber, and basically I was like, Uber's based in San Francisco. I used to live in Oakland, so just used to like transit across. It's only 2 stops on the BART. So that's that.
Yeah, I grew up in a little town called Orinda, which is just through the Caldecott Tunnel on Highway 24 from Berkeley.
Yes. No, that's definitely where you actually start finding the nicer houses. So I think it's close to Walnut Creek, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's where the only mall on that side is. So.
Yeah, well, I grew up. My dad worked in Berkeley, and my mom worked in San Francisco, and so I'm really familiar with the area. And a few years back, I spent about a year. I was telling you earlier.
Yeah.
About a year up in the San Jose area in Silicon Valley, working with startups, and so that's just such a vibrant, exciting place to be.
Yes,
there's just so many active minds coming up with incredible ideas and building exciting projects, software, hardware, you name it. And so it's fun to have you on because you're like right in the middle of all that too.
Yeah. And when I was there in the Bay, I actually got involved with so even back when I was in Australia and Melbourne, got heavily involved in like the Melbourne Accelerator program and like the startup culture over there. But that's one thing that I loved about San Francisco is that you choose, you want to show up to an AI talk. There's like tens happening with high quality individuals. Similarly, there's a lot of like startup groups. There's a lot of startup support networks because again, founders are going through their own journeys, which necessarily, like is not a typical journey per se. And I used to think that other cities in the world could sort of adopt that culture, or you could have that experience somewhere else. But I think the best metaphor that I found for San Francisco at this point is that if you want to be an actor, you got to be in LA. And if you want to run a startup at a world-class level, San Francisco will get you, that ecosystem will get you there without you having to think much.
Well, I agree. It's like just showing up. And it was one thing I noticed. I was surprised how accessible everything is. Like you can go, the communication level is really high, and the transportation to get around up in that area is really, really good. BART, the Bay Area Rapid Transit train, you can go back and forth really quick, and you don't have to worry about parking because everything's close. And if you need to get an Uber, you were at Uber for a while.
Yeah.
If you need to get to go someplace specific, you just grab an Uber, man. It's really simple.
Yeah. They've done well. They've done well with parts I know there's people out there that, disagree. And then there's like, there's all these other social issues with regards to like, public transport safety and all these other things. But by and large, considering the logistical challenges of running a big city like that, it's a good functional place. As you said, it's like easy to get around. Just don't leave anything in your car. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I was working with a company called Get Around for a while, and they had an app that they developed and with some hardware that they install on people's cars.
Yeah.
And you could go on your app and you could look and see where there were cars that were in the Get Around system.
Right.
And just hit, I'd like to rent a car. It would come up with a list of cars that within, 100 feet of you.
Yep.
And you could rent one of those cars, and they all had different prices.
Yeah.
And it's bloody amazing. I mean, that company's taken off and grown. They're international now.
Makes sense, right? Like, I think that's like effectively you take a model where there's an asset that is underutilized. Effectively, your car sitting in your garage a lot of times in the day, and they're like, well, why don't we buy an asset where there's fractional sharing of that asset? Thereby, you
guys work with that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Sorry?
What kind of apps do you guys like to make?
So with regards to hypergrowth?
Yeah.
So we are sort of agnostic. From an industry perspective, we've built stuff in the insurance space, within the restaurant space, generally recruitment. You name it, we sort of make it. Our core expertise is actually going in and understanding your goal, and then coming up with criteria, requirements, UI, UX, all the way to the end, marketing, everything that helps achieving that goal, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not so much about the industry itself or what we can make, but it's about effectively, hey, what do you want to achieve in this instance? So let's say one of the things that we built was an app called IQly, which is like a AI-powered recruitment platform. And the goal that the founder wanted to achieve at that point was to make it easier for people to interview or practice interviewing for big roles, right? Because they only get one chance at that big Google interview, right? And if they botch it because they're nervous or they haven't practiced enough or whatever, then that's a potentially really frustrating journey for the user. So by using this platform instead, you get to interact with like an avatar, which is AI powered, built from scratch, that can emulate a recruiter, ask the same questions, dig deeper, find flaws in your argument, and then give you a little bit of a score at the end so that you can then use that to improve better. So that's like, one example among countless others. Yeah.
Very cool. So I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and it says you're building the future of B2B SaaS, which is software as a service, and AI apps at hyperspeed.
Yep.
That's your company name, Hyperspeed.
Hypergrowth.
Oh, I'm sorry, Hypergrowth.
Yeah.
Good, Hypergrowth. And then, so you're using AI, code and no code. What does that mean
So
for the non-techies out here?
So if we go back like 10-ish years, right? The only way for you to actually start a project, have you ever been around like people who were like ideas guys? And there was that running joke amongst developers who were like, hey man, you build the product, I have an idea and we'll go 50-50. And then the developers would be like, well, what?
That
like,
ain't
you
fair.
want me to? Yeah. So, and then there was a significant barrier to entry to actually build products because code was hard. And understanding, optimizing, all those things, deploying something end to end requires.
Back in the day when they built Facebook,
right? That requires a whole software engineering degree, data engineering.
Hundreds of people.
Exactly. So it's like not. It's not. It was expensive and it was skill level prohibitive. So now what's happened in the last couple of years is that we've seen this onset of these no code or low code platforms that are more similar to like drag and drop UI editors that people are more used to or can relatively easily pick up. Yeah. That sort of abstract away the need to actually write code. So you don't need to now go into your text editor or VS Code Studio or whatever and actually write that code away. You can literally drag and drop a button and then say, hey, when this button is clicked, this is the action that I want to sort of do, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can drag and drop and design the UI on the back of that. Now, what this does is significantly speed up the process of deploying an MVP, right? So if you go back to that whole San Francisco startup thing, minimum viable product or minimum lovable product, because sometimes people go too viable and it ends up becoming like basically so bare bones that you don't know if you're losing users because your app just looks and feels cheap or if it's because it's generally not solving a problem. So we'll say minimum lovable at this point, right?
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. So the whole point of a startup is that it is sort of like an experiment, right? Because you are selling, or the hypothesis is that you are trying to create something that has never existed before, or you're trying to sell something in a way that it's never been sold before. So if we go back to your get around example, cars have been around, right? No big deal. People have been buying cars the whole time, but they took a car and they basically said, hey, we'll try to sell this in a different way. And that's the entirety of their business model, right? Nobody knows if that was going to succeed or fail. But, you could either go the route of like, hey, I'm going to, spend my savings, hundreds of millions of dollars, hire whole teams, agencies, companies, whatever, and then get in and actually build this product, spend a year building it, 2 years building it, take it to market, and then, it falls flat. And at that point, there's a big risk of, that's painful, right? You've spent your time, you spend your money, and now you never really knew if the product was going to be viable. So the beauty of these no-code or low-code builders is that, rather than now spending a year and hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, you can actually get started with much less and actually get to the results that you want much quicker. And that now reduces the barrier to entry to the market so that now people who are ideas guys can technically take a crack at it themselves, which from an ecosystem perspective is fantastic because maybe most of them are going to be not great ideas, but the ones that actually are going to shine through are going to give a lot of competition to existing players and, create a lot of innovation and stuff.
Excellent. Yeah. It's like, how do you stay on top of all that stuff? When I was working with Apple, it was like they do they call them speed bumps, and they would come up with a new product, and then they would do a speed bump every 6 months. So it's like they iterate the product that quickly to come up with new stuff. So twice a year there was big announcements. But today with AI, is that still true?
Oh, I mean, if you move the speed bumps up. If you move the speed bumps up from 6 months to like every other week, then maybe we're on the same page.
It's like crazy.
It is because here's the thing, right? If you think about the innovations that you want to do, let's say in the airline industry, right?
Yeah.
There's physical things that need to be built. That takes time.
Yeah.
Right? And that creates a barrier to entry, cost, material, labor, whatever. So there's a real physical calendar time component to actually iterating and coming up with new tech. So that industry is always going to be relatively slow by comparison, right? But now when you go into the code ecosystem, well, there is no physical limitation. And the beauty of AI or some of these models is that they can significantly speed up a talented software engineer's development process or a talented team's process, because now rather than, I'll give you an example, right? Everybody uses like a note taker app these days, right? Yeah. You just sit in your call and then you take your notes.
You just keep a lot.
Yep. And then you just end up with a fantastic summary. So now rather than having somebody chase everybody around and take minute notes and then send them a follow-up email, right, which would take 15 minutes post-meeting per meeting, right? But now you're saving 15 minutes of everybody's time across the team. And so now you can use that extra, let's say 2 hours a day, right, across 2 man hours to now you put that back into like development time. So now things are speeding up in other ways, right?
Right. Yeah, we do this for sales. We do the same thing, shortening down the sales cycle. It's like amazing what it can do.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, right? That throughput part. So since the throughput in this industry is so high at this point, we're actually seeing scenarios now that, one company will end up spending 6 months developing a product and they launch it and it's already obsolete because somebody else comes up with something better. And then basically this leads to a scenario where, as you said, those speed bumps are just like coming in faster and faster. The best way to keep on top of it, personally, this is what I do, is find people who are on like at the forefront of the field with regards to just like, they're much like yourself, they're like fire hoses of information and they're accumulating. Like there's fantastic YouTubers out there that focus on a product perspective. So this is more like what you and I could use in a day-to-day perspective. But then there's like newsletters that you could sign up to. I know there's Cerebral Valley, there is Data Phoenix, there's a couple of others that you could sign up to that are constantly just like talking to the cutting edge people in the field. And that's the only way that I see to actually keep abreast of the information. But honestly, can get very overwhelming very quickly.
Yeah, I was constantly going. That was what, almost 20 years ago now. Well, I hate to say that, but it's like things have like gone. I thought it was crazy then to stay on top of all that. So it's like so important to be really organized, but you still got to have a life, right? So that's where the purpose-driven stuff comes in, right? We talk about purpose-driven business and life. Yeah. So if you don't have a purpose, for me anyway, having a purpose really brings the energy to the picture.
Yeah.
What's your purpose? How would you describe your purpose and what you're doing as founder of Hypergrowth?
So, I mean, obviously there's like that personal purpose. And then there's that overall, like who you want to be in life, who do you want to be known as, and what do you want to help, right? So we all come across problems in our life, and some of those problems stick, and we're like, no, this is the one that I want to solve, right? So if you look at my background, my journey throughout as I said, was heavily involved with startups and launched one, grew it to 50,000 users. So within that journey, came across specific pain points, and then the more I thought about it, ended up solving them from us, right? But ended up thinking, hey, so there's a lot of other people that potentially go through this journey that, are effectively not going to succeed potentially, not because they have bad ideas, but because the execution, the way that they're executing on them isn't necessarily the best way, and that's going to lead to failure. So that's our business, or my business purpose. And that's something that I shared with you earlier too in that deck, which is effectively like, there's 33 million small businesses in the US.
Oh, wait, let's pull this up.
Yeah.
It's a good time to do that. So let's see if I can figure this out. There we go. All right. Yeah. So tell us about this.
So that's Hypergrowth, right? And our title is like, we code and create while you accelerate. And there's a quick video that I want to show you if you click on the next one. That's just going to give you a brief overview as to the best things we do. So that's a little rave for you at noon.
All right. Yeah. There you go.
I like the music. Really hypes me up every time I listen to it. So if we go on the next one, right? So I'll go through a little bit about what we do in specific as well. But
so yeah, before you, I mean, that was cool. You did that. You built that, right?
Yeah. That's all in-house. All the screens and all the products that we're showing in them were projects that we have delivered to clients to create success. And again, our goal is understanding and delivering things that are exciting. And that's our core value too. We want to be exciting.
Love that. Yeah. So thank you for bringing that on. That's just really, really fun. And it's different and it's exciting and it kind of caters to the I don't know, the Instagram goal.
Yeah, the TikTok,
fast paced,
low attention era. That's the world we live in, right? So
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're dealing with anything other than that, you're probably not going to get much attention anymore. So very cool. So we got the Ignite hypergrowth.com banner up. If you'd like to know more about what Saad's doing in his company, and you think maybe that would be something that would be interesting for you and where you're headed, this is a place to go. This is a ton of fun. So let's keep going with it. So tell us about this slide.
Yeah, so you were talking about purpose, right? So this was something that I figured out, and again, this is the problem that we've chosen to solve. So as I mentioned, there's about 33 million small businesses in the US, right?
Right.
A lot of people think that, hey man, I'm going to quit my job, become a business owner, make bank. That's not necessarily the true picture when you actually look at it. And all these 33 million small business owners on average make only about $49,000 a year, which is, if you look at the cost of living in a lot of the country, is a very low number. And it takes them about $500,000 on average to actually start up a business. So it's not necessarily cheap, right? So the whole purpose of hypergrowth is being able to guide these businesses to get to that MVP stage or MLP stage, the minimum lovable product phase, quickly, and then get them to the point where they can grow to about 1 to 3 employees. Because at that stage, their income grows from like 49,000 to roughly about 300 to 400,000, right? And simultaneously reduce the risk of failure by making sure that they have the right strategies in place from the get-go. The average year one failure rate for companies in the US right now is 22%. By year 5, this increases to 50%. So the whole goal for us is to get in quickly, get you to figure out what your customers want. Once you figure it out, that's what's called product market fit. So the product that you're selling works for the market that you're selling it in. And then once you figure out your product market fit, then the growth part kicks in. And then we do specifically like growth marketing, which is performance marketing, social media, whatever we need to do to get you to sell quickly and hit that hyper growth.
Excellent. So that's really a nice summary or synopsis of your purpose.
Thank you.
How does that bring you to your market? Like, what is it that you personally, what do you find feeds you with that? Can you describe that?
Yeah. So you were asking me earlier, like what sort of industries we focus on. And I guess that's one thing where I sort of envy people that can find like one thing and say, hey man, we really want to be like Uber, but for dogs.
Okay.
And they really find that niche quickly and they're like, no, I want to really jump in. What feeds me, and this has just been me ever since I was growing up, is understanding how the world works and specifically understanding how different businesses work. So by helping out businesses, startups or traditional or small to medium sized businesses, one thing that I find is effectively that it helps me understand how they're making money, what the best players in the market do well, and then what mistakes to sort of avoid. Then, especially with startups, they're always solving new problems in different ways. Mm-hmm. So that sort of scratches my itch of trying to really, really problem solve. And I can say that this is the best way to do it.
Excellent. Well, we had a question from
Yeah.
Anna in the audience. She says the field of specific AI applications is relatively new. How do you convince companies of its necessity?
So one approach that I've found works well is to, sorry, I don't know if you're hearing that background. There's a bit of a truck in the background. But let me know if that gets
Oh, sure. We got some of that going on too.
Yeah.
So we're good.
I think somebody's backing up. So
as long as they don't come through that window, I think it will be okay.
Yeah. So what I found works really well talking to businesses is if you are trying to convince a potential customer or client that they need you, then you're sort of approaching it in the wrong way. That's my take on it. So everybody has their own like sales approach. Mine is sort of derived from what I've seen, like what the big consulting companies do, or like the best salespeople in the world do, is two things. One, you genuinely try to understand what their problems are. So you don't want to like shoehorn AI.
Right. You're not like saying buy from me, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me, like 99%.
Yeah. Or like how to like do let's say a ChatGPT integration. Like hypothetically, that's your product and you specialize in that, right? Yeah. So you don't want to just be going around saying, hey, you must use this approach, right? Yeah. Because that is where you find that you are convincing them of something that they don't necessarily need. We had a call.
You're not convincing anybody, right?
Yeah. So I had a call yesterday with a client, for instance, and they wanted like some AI integrations for their marketplace app, and they wanted necessarily a chatbot at that point in time, right? Which is easy enough to build, but like the reality was that in their instance, that chatbot wasn't going to solve their core problem of the platform's recommendation algorithms being terrible and people coming into the platform not being able to find things easily due to bad UI UX, right? So the approach over there is that you just understand what their business problem is and see what of these proposed tools, solutions, or products that you can build that can help with that. And then you will find that, if you have that sales mindset of, hey, I must sell a solution here, it's sort of like you're pushing a drug, as opposed to like you're being more consultative and you're genuinely like, hey, dude, like, what's your goal for this year? You want to hit $500,000 in revenue? You want to make 10 million in revenue? Well, let's break it down. Let's see which products can we actually help over here? Which of them are going to directly help with your goal? These ones I don't recommend because you know what? They look fancy, but they actually don't work really well for your instance, right? And then once you do that, you will find that you build a lot more trust because you're actually showing them, hey, this person's actually happy to take like a pay cut potentially to like actually deliver a great experience for me. At least that's how I approach it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's really the only way it works today, because the consumer is so savvy. I mean, we can go find out about any information we want to. Where it really comes down to it is like you mentioned earlier, it's establishing yourself as an authority in whatever subject you've got, and then building trust. With the individuals that you're working with, so that you can collaborate and work together to create a solution that gets them where they want to go. And if you establish that value, and you're giving more, like you say, if you give more than you really than they are anticipating, in terms of the value, they'll pay whatever it is you're asking for. And that's really the sale. It's not like you're convincing them to give you money. It's like, well, how can we help you get where you want to go?
Yeah, and that's necessarily it, right? Because put yourself in the shoes of a business leader, right? A lot of small business owners watch your podcast, and a small business owner is already like inundated with so many things that they're supposed to do that they just can't get to. So if you add in another thing, and your approach is like, hey, fear-based selling of like, hey, if you don't do this, you're gonna lose out, and this, that, the other, then all you're doing is actually adding more anxiety to your client's plate.
Right? Why do I want to talk?
I don't know, man. Works for some people, but not necessarily for me.
So how does that apply to the AI thing though? Because AI is like, right now, it's like, you remember that movie, the 2001: A Space Odyssey?
So I know about it. I
It
never
might be a
watched
little
it.
before your time. You got to go back and watch that movie
Yeah.
because it had this odd thing they called the monolith in it. And during the sequence of the movie, every time that monolith appeared, an innovation happened
Okay.
in the universe. And right now with AI, we're kind of going through that monolith moment where everything is we're right at the cusp of this tremendous amount of change with AI and with crypto and the new world order thing and currencies and all this stuff that's going on right now. It's exciting, but it's also nerve-wracking. And there's a threat. There's kind of a threat between doing nothing and doing something, but you've got all these choices.
Yep.
So how do you pick?
So
and AI is one of those things that you just like, I don't know where to start.
So I mean, I'm gonna give two examples for this, right? So first thing is with regards to like, if you don't know where to start, well, that's what I'm here for in my team. So, just ping me, Saad at ignitehypergrowth.com. But from a different perspective, like, I'd say YouTube is your best friend. And going in and trying to understand what products are out there for your business, that would be a good place to start. So effectively, what AI products are great at right now is sort of taking one function or one part of a function for your business and then sort of like automating that, right? So purely from a business owner's perspective. So for instance, there's this startup that I was reading about the other day that specializes in what is called from a development perspective, there's a role called a site reliability engineer, whose job is to monitor platforms and make sure the uptime is great. And it's like a role or part of a role where that's what you're monitoring, right? Yeah. And that process, somebody went and built a company that specifically takes that role and just says, you know what, I'm going to plug into your systems and just make sure that what a person was doing at this point, I'm just going to be going ahead and doing, right? So fractionally, they have potentially freed up more resources for the rest of the team or for this or existing site reliability engineers, improve their capability of being able to handle more without necessarily adding in more headcount.
Okay.
Cool? So that's what I would like business owners to think of it as, is effectively like, how can I use parts of this little puzzle to come together and make something for our system that works in the way that my business works, right? And really free up my time as a business owner to work on more value additive projects, right? There is this thinking that, I was speaking to this other business owner the other day, and he was spending a lot of his time, he runs a cafe, he was spending a lot of his time making his own sandwiches because he wanted to basically produce that quality output, which is fantastic. But also, that's how he felt he was contributing to the business, right? But if you think about it, his time with regards to like selling a $10 sandwich, with regards to his margin on it, he's probably making $2 from each sandwich that he sells at that point in time. He could be doing more things like growing the business, sales, corporate selling, that could have a much bigger impact but since they choose to focus on things that are easier and more accessible, they're not thinking about that big picture. So all this to say, this is where AI is great at, is currently getting in and like building out that tool set that can really automate some of these functions, right? And give you more time to focus on your mental health, grow the business, spend time on your family, and enjoy life. So that's how I see some of it.
Yeah, it's so important. Like you're right. It's looking at this technology as an assistant, as a hand, as a helping hand, instead of a threat, and asking yourself really good questions about it and saying, well, how can this technology help me to do? And then having your purpose-driven business and life in mind. How is this going to help me? Like you say, spend more time with my kids. How's this going to help me serve my market better and still keep my health up and have the life that I want to have and not work? Entrepreneurs are known for way overworking And
glorifying overworking per se. There we have that culture. We glorify, hey, I spent 12 hours working. Well, what of that time were you actually doing productive things versus just like busy work? So that's
right.
where like
Right. Yeah. What's the A time, B time, C time? You should be working on A time stuff and delegating everything else.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where like I'd ask you too, Jim. Like, what's your purpose, right? And because once you have that goal or purpose of what you want to achieve in life in 10 years, this year, 6 months, all these things start coming together, and then you should then be able to know, hey, what resources do I need to hit those goals? And then AI is just like another resource. You could hire more people, you could have resources, you could have specialists. So no different.
Very cool. So let's keep going with your slide deck. That was fun. So I want to talk about the next slide and see what you guys are really doing here. This is exciting. You've got tell us about this slide.
So yeah, that's just to establish like what we've like me and my co-founder Hashim, who's an excellent strategy and ops leader. What we've done, how we got here. So as I said, worked with Uber as a data scientist and led their sort of the business intelligence part for their ads team globally. Before that, had experience working in specific ad tech companies like Index and Dentsu, and then did my master's at the University of Melbourne. But before all of that, I was part of like, as I said, my background's been ad tech for a couple of years. And during that duration, we sort of went in and started making performance campaigns for big brands, including Disney, BMW, Red Bull, F1, the Australian government. And I was personally responsible for driving millions of dollars in ad revenue, millions of dollars in conversions. Launched 3 startups at this point, 50,000 cumulative user base with like, over $1 million in revenue. And then that's not even including what we've done for Hypergrowth. And in Hypergrowth, we've launched about 20 to 30 products in a couple of months, which actually goes to show like the speed at which we're building.
Very
that's
cool.
that. Yeah.
Have you met Don Voss yet?
No, I have not.
He's a member of the Bright Business Project, and he was telling me about one of his projects he's working on with the Formula One group too.
He
was in Florida with the McLaren group.
Yeah, no, I mean they do fantastic stuff. I think ever since that Drive to Survive show came out, F1's also blown up, which is probably a great investment.
I love F1. That's like I spend my weekends watching F1 races on TV.
Yeah, they were in Vegas last week, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I one of my friends, Robert and Vivian, went there, and with Robert took his son and they saw it. So
yeah, I used to attend them in.
Right now, I'd like to go.
No, they're really fun. I used to attend F1 events in Australia, and they used to have like, it's not so much the race itself as it's the hype before the race with like I think the F2 races or the other.
Yeah, right. They got all kinds of things going on.
So is my video frozen at all?
Yeah, you froze up a little bit.
Okay. Well, that's weird. I don't know how to fix that.
We got 2 of you.
Do I rejoin the call?
Sure, you can try it.
All right, let me do that.
So Saad's got some technical stuff going on. We're gonna just take a little break and see what he's doing. He's got Disney and BMW. He's got Red Bull, Formula One. They've been doing a lot of work getting active in their markets and really starting to make a difference. So, and it's fun talking with Saad because he's got this international background it's tremendous. So hang on a sec. There we go. Welcome back.
Well, I appreciate. Hope you didn't have too much fun without me.
I was just yammering on about all the fun logos you got.
Yeah.
So let's look at the next one.
Yeah.
So
that's just like my personal value and ethos. There's this quote that I keep on thinking about every time I do anything. It's from I originally heard it from, if you guys watch Top Gear, then Jeremy Clarkson keeps on saying this in like a fun way, but if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. And a related quote that I heard recently was that how you do anything is how you do everything. So I see that you relate, Jim. But like from my perspective, it's like you shouldn't be looking at what other people are doing. Your competition should be with yourself. And
I love that.
Yeah,
that is yes,
there
absolutely.
you go. So that's just not to harp on about it, but like that's what at least my goal is. Yeah.
Excellent.
And then from a hypergrowth perspective, we have clients all over the world. Headquarters in San Diego, and we're servicing clients globally. So if you see this outside of the US, well, still available.
Excellent. So let's see what we do.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, we build best-in-class AI software products. That's our number one goal. And then number two is like scale successful products rapidly through strategic high return on ad spend marketing. Again, the goal is to deliver growth that pays out dividends in return, in terms of return. So that's the mindset that I certainly sometimes see small business owners struggle with, where sometimes they view marketing as a cost. And the reason why they view it as a cost is because historically, marketers don't want to be responsible for the outcome. So they're like, hey, we'll make these fancy visuals, look at how many eyeballs we got, but don't ask us about how many sales it resulted in. And that then creates like,
So those metrics, looking at what are your key metrics that you're using? ROAS is it really, it starts to take a look at what's important, return on ad spend. What does that say? It says you're getting a return, which means you're making more than you're spending, and you're also spending on your ads.
Yep.
So what does that mean? Well, that means that if you spend $1, you should be getting at least $3 back.
Yep.
Right.
100%. That's one thing that when I was working at Uber in Australia, was working with about 50,000 small restaurants, mom and pop shops, right? And one of the things that we really struggled to sell them was the ads product. And ads for Uber is effectively like Uber Eats is like how you rank, how your restaurant ranks within the platform. So think of it as like SEO, but for like, restaurants. And we would give them credits and they would use those credits and they would get, let's say they're spending $100 on it, they would get $1,000 worth of sales, right? But for some reason, they would still continue to view the $100 spent as a cost.
Wow, that's why. Because it's like, for me, it's like, okay, I spend 100, I make 1,000.
Yeah,
I want to spend 200 because then I'll make 2,000.
Because the cause effect isn't clear, and that's like where the whole data science aspect and analytics aspect comes in. Because here, let me break it down for you, right? So if you spend $100 today and you get $1,000 in sales tomorrow, it's pretty clear that you got that $1,000 because you spent $100 today, right?
Uh-huh.
But what if you spend $100 today, you get 2 sales tomorrow, 3 sales over the weekend, 5 sales next month, right? And then out of those combined 10 sales, they refer 3 other people that then come back and buy from your platform 12 times in the coming year, right? Yeah. Then you start to see that, hey, actually, this is how I'm actually making my money. But since people don't have the right platforms, analytics, like understanding put into place, they tend to purely view it as, okay, I spent $100 today, I only got 2 sales tomorrow. So that's something that we continuously educate our clients on and help them build so they can make the right decisions, because that's where the data science part comes in as well. You know this, that, sometimes just changing the color of the words in a creative can lead to like vastly different results. And we want to be able to be in a position where we're A/B testing everything.
Right. No, A/B testing is another big deal.
Yeah.
It's like when you start putting in an ad, say you post an ad on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you get a certain click-through rate, right? So you got a CTA or a call to action that says click on this to get more information, and that so they do that, and you get a certain number of eyeballs looking at that ad, and then they click through, and you get a ratio of eyeballs to actual click-throughs, and that may be 1%, 10%, 50%. The higher percentage, the better, right?
Yep.
And then you've got that starts your funnel, and you got this progression of reduction that goes on. That fewer and fewer people take the next step. So, but yeah, I mean, so that's an important part of it, is understanding that optimization of and using A/B testing is a way to put two ads out that are very similar, and you put A ad out, and then you have a slightly different one, B ad, right? And then you compare the results from the two, and you pick the best one of the two, and then you make another one.
Yeah.
And you just keep iterating that, and you get better and better and better and better. That's a pain in the ass to do. That's a lot of work.
If I told you that you could do this and your business could grow like 10 times this year, is that enough of a reward though?
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah. So this is where like that goal approach of like what you want to achieve becomes very important, because once you know that, then you need to know what sort of resources you need to put in. If your expectation is, hey, I want to build a skyscraper, and you're like, nah, man, I'm only going to buy like, I don't know, like 5 bags of concrete. It doesn't match, right? So you either have to like reduce your expectations or your goals, or you have to find ways to like get to that goal, which could be step by step. And then with regards to you saying like, yes, it is a pain in the ass. And this is where like, you hire help, resources, team members that can sort of help you sort of do that. Or like, set up those funnels at the start, and then they're automated, so you're getting all that insight. Because this is how, when you see brands that grow from like, you see instances of, that guy just started in his garage and now is like, making $100 million in revenue. Well, this is what they're doing. This is the secret sauce. It's not because they're working 12 hours a day, doing stuff that's not high value. They understand what's high value, they analyze it, and they apply those resources to those things continuously, iteratively.
Yeah. It's a systematic approach. And that's what I love about the Bright Business Project too, is that they're helping people to figure that out, and access people like yourself in the process to give them an easy way to get access to really, really smart people when you're not making $1 million plus a year yet.
Yeah. And there's like, I think one thing people get intimidated by is that, well, how do I have that conversation? Like, it's not like just have a chat. Just go reach out to whoever you have in your circle that you think is an expert in this, or professionals. Just book a 15-minute call with them, and then just say, hey, what do you think? Like, this is my business. This is the problem that I'm trying to solve. I will take those calls. I take about 10 of those calls every day, purely because, and those are free. There's no like cost to them, but there's a genuine like conversation that I can have with the business owner, understand what they want, and then actually come up with recommendations of like, hey, if we want to achieve this, then this is what it's going to cost. Or, if you don't have resources for that right now, then we'll figure out a strategic way to get there. So we have building blocks in place. Or this isn't a great fit for what you're trying to find. Worst comes worst, you just have a great conversation that is just going to trigger your brain with ideas. There's no downside to it. So, yeah.
Beautiful. So tell us about your process real quick.
We might want to just go back to like the previous slide, I think, where we were just discussing like what we do at Hypergrowth. So again, we do all the way from website development to platform development, UI UX design. We build, train custom AI models, and like do that and integrate existing tools or build custom tools, as well as voice agents, which are pretty big these days, especially if you run sort of service that requires somebody to be on the phone. So help out with that. And we can skip the process slide. Like that's more for like, I think if you're, unless you guys are interested.
Put everybody to sleep.
Yeah. I mean, the whole point of having a
about agents.
Yeah, sorry.
What do you see as I've been hearing a lot about agentics in AI and building AI agents. Like Microsoft just introduced the new platform that's I'm seeing a lot now. where you can build your own AI agents to do stuff
Yep.
for you. Are you working in that realm yet?
Yeah, 100%. So there's a lot of tools, or if you go down to the hard code level, I think the first agent that I built was a couple of years ago, which effectively just like, I'm really particular about fried chicken. Fun fact. I only like chicken breast. And
Okay.
I would spend a
I
lot of
wish I had a
time.
sound effect for a chicken.
It's the leanest part. Even though thigh meat tends to be juicier for whoever likes that. So I would spend a lot of time with regards to my food searches, just like, going to websites, trying to figure out what their menu was, and then
Right.
reading the reviews to see if they actually serve, what sort of chicken meat they actually serve. So the first agent that I built effectively just did that, which is it would search for specific keywords. It would analyze the results that would come out. It would then read the reviews for those specific things that I was looking for, analyze them, and then come up with a list of like 5 places within my area that I was at the time that could just like, fill that gap for me. So an agent is effectively like a set of tools, code, and in this instance, AI now, that can do something, right? An agent that can read your emails and send calendar invites is effectively just that. Agent means giving agency or the ability to actually do something, as opposed to just like, like where ChatGPT is currently right now, which is like it'll answer questions for you, but it can't actually like buy a ticket.
Right.
So that's something that we build out too, and that's where that conversation was about. Startups going in heavily these days and figuring out specific roles, and then building out agents that do that role really well.
Yeah, I mean that's like where it's headed, and it reminds me of that old saying that Wayne Gretzky, the hockey player, would say. It's like you've got to aim where you want where the target's going to be.
Yep.
In the future, and so if you're hitting behind the target, you're going to miss hitting your outcome. So, and this is like, okay, AI integration into the business as you're designing this business is critical these days. So that's what I'm hearing, right?
It's like going back to that example of when the car came out, right? If your business is transportation, you could still use a horse. It'll still get the job done. But eventually you want to start moving to a car or motor vehicle, because the productivity gains are just going to be pretty much higher. So yes, I was talking about not making people anxious, but effectively from a competition perspective, if your competitors can now start doing things cheaper, faster, better, and you're not able to evolve in that sense, then you're going to be left behind. And that is the beauty of capitalism, and that is the beauty of just running a business, is you gotta evolve to survive. So right now what we're seeing is there's this big shakeup where traditionally businesses that never felt the need for that, were comfortable, complacent, and got good revenue coming in, they're being shaken up right now. And this should be an opportunity for them to reevaluate their processes and see, hey, what they can continue to improve. Yeah.
Very cool. So let's see. You want to go through some more of that deck?
We could, or we could just pop on. I know we're running out of time too. If you want to just pop on that, they just had some examples with regards to some of the tools that we've built. But once the newly revamped Hypergrowth website is launched, your listeners should be able to check out our portfolio on that as well. It's ignitehypergrowth.com. But if we sponsor the last slide, I just want to put up my contact information on there if anybody wants to get in touch.
So, okay, cool. So which, I'm sorry, you want me to put up your phone or email address?
Yeah.
So could you put your email address in the private chat and I'll throw it up?
Yeah.
So while we're doing that,
yeah,
I wanted to see if Florin Dumais, the founder of the Bright Business Project, would like to bring him on just for a minute. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, cool. All right, Florin, I hope you're ready to go, baby. Give me a thumbs up. He's ready. All right, here we go. Let's see if we can get Florin up here. There we go.
Hey, Florin.
Hey, buddy.
I love
Great
the
interview.
plants.
Yeah, I love the interview. I was posting on LinkedIn right now. Little input. Yeah, I see a lot of synergy between what you do, what is your mission and our mission. That makes sense.
100%. That's why I was happy that Tsunami was able to invite me. I had a great time last week too. Yeah, I was
I love
waiting on that invite that you mentioned about Saturday, but never got that. So
Yeah, and I'm gonna copy the email address from here, and I'm gonna add you on our list because I just sent this morning an email
yeah,
to our close group
yeah,
with all the events we have. And we had a meeting last week, and we were talking with Dali and Felima, I guess, about having in maybe February a big AI event,
hmm
and to be run by our members, because we
yeah,
do have few members with AI, but different one with different angle.
yeah.
And I would love you to join this conversation. In fact, I was asking Dali to connect with you. I don't know if you got the email.
Yeah. I think like Thanksgiving weekend has been a bit busy, but
Yeah.
supposed to get back to that. But yeah, sounds exciting. I'm down. I'm just gonna be traveling for a couple of weeks, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm gonna be back mid-January. But we can continue any and all conversations there.
Yeah. Yeah. So the event, because the event is going to be in person, somewhere in Irvine, and we need to see the exact location, and to kind of to promote it. I'm looking for something big because we had one in September, I guess, and we want to have something bigger than that.
Yeah, you should pop down to VentureX and Scripps Ranch too. They have a pretty good space.
Or in
So
San Diego.
yeah. So I'm gonna share that location details with you too, and Sanami's familiar with it. That's a good spot as well.
Okay, great. So we might work on two events or two locations, one in Irvine for Orange County and
Yep.
one in San Diego. Would be great.
Yep.
Mhm. Love it. So when was your first where did you start your first business? Here or in Australia?
No, my first business. Sorry, is this still part of the podcast, or like, are we?
Yeah, we're still live, man.
Cool. Okay, cool. So first business was actually like a while ago in Pakistan. Set up a photography company, and this is where like I got the whole understanding of video, good design, what makes it engaging, and shot stuff. Got into product stuff, shot stuff for Hush Puppies, Red Bull. Had billboard campaigns all over because that was my first business, like when I was like in my early 20s. But after that, basically set up Thenga at the start of the year, launched that for the Middle Eastern, South Asian, Pakistani market. Grew that to, as I said, about 50,000 users, and then just used the team to then set up Hypergrowth, which is about 6-ish to 8-ish months old at this point. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, pretty new, but you're very dynamic. You're moving super fast. And again, going back to Dali, he graduated Oxford, and he is a photographer for Vogue, all the best fashion.
Yeah. I think I remember. I remember seeing his profile on the on the cards that you had printed out. So that's definitely somebody I want to connect with, 100%.
Yeah. I would love you to connect. And be probably more active. I'm talking as you as a member now, and to be active in Irvine, to join the club in Irvine, connect with the group in Orange County.
Yeah. We can definitely have a chat about that. Yeah. Irvine's yeah.
So I want to invite you both and all our listeners to join the Bright Business Carlsbad this Friday, this December 6th, in Carlsbad. Not at the Chamber of Commerce. It's going to be at the Hera Hub. I think I sent an email and I posted on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. You can take me out. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I still not enough room for the Carlsbad, and Yeah, this month we'll talk in Carlsbad Corona in Irvine. We'll cover one big topic: the power of community, the power of a group, to belong to a tribe. Sad, what do you think about this?
100%. I do think being a business owner, there's not a lot of people that understand. So having somebody or a group of people that not only understands your journey and can help you guide through the ups and downs, but simultaneously also provide like a peer group in that they have solved the problems that you are facing right now. I think that's necessary.
Yeah, that's why you mentioned earlier, and this is done. I know we are 5 minutes over, and you mentioned earlier most of the business owners were afraid even to contact you because they think they don't know, they worry about the price. You might gonna be you might push some sales, and they are not ready for this. Sometimes they don't know what to ask for. They have an idea. They don't want to waste your time, and there are so many things going on with the business owners. On the other side, they do not have time.
Yep.
So that's why when we created the Bright Business Project and all these in-person clubs, we want to give opportunity to business owners to come here, feel comfy, and then talk little chat with each one of the business experts they meet. And from here to start building a relation. Is one thing to have a Zoom call with a stranger. Is another thing when we meet, let's say in Carlsbad, and shake hands, talk about different things, and then step by step having a conversation, more meaningful conversation with you or any other experts. Like the same thing with me.
100%. And then I just want to let your listeners know that, the session, I attended a Bright Business Project session last week, and super valuable, filled with people, multi-talented people from different industries. It's a great way to actually meet people in person, as you said. I personally don't like taking Zoom meetings where I can. I love going for like coffee chats. And even though that might add an extra 15 minutes to my drive, I find that the connection that you make, just having that conversation in person, is something that maybe you can't even over on 10 Zoom calls. This is why big businesses know that. That's why they have in-person events, even for remote teams. So I would specifically shout out Florin, Jim, for the fantastic stuff that they do over at the Bright Business Club in Carlsbad. And I'm hearing about this Irvine Club right now. So congratulations if you kicked that off recently, or if it's been around. Sorry, I didn't know about it. Yeah.
No, thank you so much. And we are rebuilding now the club in Corona. So we have 3 clubs right now with 3 in-person meetings.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a good segue for us to kind of move through to the end of our broadcast today. We've hit our time. So I want to thank you, Saad, for joining us. And it was a lot of fun. I had a blast talking with you today, and you guys are doing some cool stuff. Looking forward to learning more about you and watching you as you grow.
100%. Really appreciate the time. You guys putting this together. You're on a fantastic journey. So I wish you all the growth possible as fast as possible. I wish you all the hypergrowth. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, Saad at ignitehypergrowth.com. So SAAD at ignitehypergrowth.com. Just have a chat. You'll find the same energy that I bring here is what I generally bring in all our conversations. And you know what? As I said, worst comes worst, you'll probably leave with like good ideas about where to take your business. So yeah, really appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Next week, we have Monday. Next week, we've got Mr. Tony Liu, who's with our Corona. He's the new leader in the Corona group. And he's got an exciting story we're going to share with him next week about his purpose-driven business and life. And until then, have an awesome week, and we'll talk to you again soon.
See ya.
See you. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, you guys hang on a second. I'm just going to end the stream.